So, how are you doing today? Do you feel like getting creative and doing some DIYing with me today? Come on in, let's get started. What do I have going on for you for today? Oh my word, you saw the thumbnail. Today's video is honestly the reality of how a DIY can play out. When everything that could go wrong does go wrong, do you end up scrapping the DIY and just calling it a day? Or do you persevere through it, stay determined, and try to salvage the DIY to get it to that place that you envisioned it being? Well, that's what I'm gonna show you today. I can't wait to see what you think of this DIY. Was it a fail? Or at the end of the day, did I save it and make it a success? You tell me. So I'm gonna quit my gabbing, let's jump into it, and let me show you just a bit of that creative process that I go through from time to time. Let's get to it. Who is today's KB Creations Crafter of the Day? You'll want to stick around to the end of the video to see if it's your creation that's being featured in today's video. Plaster of Paris, that's what's needed for today's DIY. You can find this 4-pound carton at Walmart for just under $4. This storage container that you can find at Dollar Tree is the perfect size for today's DIY, so next time you're at Dollar Tree, pick one up. To the inside of this, I'm going in with some cooking spray, and I'm gonna give it a nice good coating of this. Cooking spray is non-stick, right? Well, we need the inside of this to be non-stick, so with a paper towel, I'm just gonna go ahead and absorb, the excess spray and really just coat the inside of this. You want the sides particularly coated with the cooking spray. In a mixing bowl, I'm gonna add 4 cups of the Plaster of Paris. And to the plaster, I'm gonna add 2 cups of cold water. Then I'm gonna stir until the consistency of the plaster and water is good and smooth. Now, I will tell you, you do wanna make sure and use cold water, because if you use hot, it will cause the plaster to set quicker than if you use cold. Plaster of Paris sets pretty quickly anyway, so when you're working with it, you're gonna wanna move a bit on the faster side, really get it good and mixed, get it good and smooth. Once you've got your plaster mixed and you've got that nice, thick, smooth consistency, then we're all clear to go ahead and pour this mixture into our storage container, which in essence is our tile mold. By gently tapping the container on a hard surface, you're gonna see all those bubbles, those air bubbles coming to the surface. Once you've got all those air bubbles, if you just go in with some alcohol, this is a rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, any percentage will do, put it in a squirt bottle. You take that squirt bottle and just spray it over the top, and magically your air bubbles will disappear, giving you a nice smooth surface on your soon-to-be tile. How fun are these skeletons that Dollar Tree has right now? There is an on-off button here at the top, and with motion past the eyes, it turns on. What a fun piece, right? I thought it'd be fun to incorporate into this DIY because I want to protect the speaker in the back. I'm gonna place some painter's tape over the speaker itself. And this skeleton is a bit too big for my tile mold, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove the legs. Sorry, skeleton. I let my plaster set for about 8 minutes. You don't wanna let it go any longer than that. After that, I'm good to go ahead and place my skeleton in my plaster, and it's not going to sink. It's thickened up enough that I can place it in there, and it's going to keep it at its surface, but it's also going to allow me to put it into the plaster so it sticks well and it's actually adhered to the plaster, if that makes any sense. I went into my cabinet and grabbed some allspice because it looked like dirt. Ask me why I didn't just get dirt or coffee. I'm not sure what I was thinking, but allspice is gonna work too. I think I was thinking because I don't really use my allspice, I would just use it to get rid of it. And so since the plaster is wet, I figured I'd go in and sprinkle this to give the look or illusion of dirt. And I was thinking that while the plaster was wet, the allspice would I guess, absorb some of the moisture from the plaster and it would stick into the plaster is what my hopes was. In all honesty, there wasn't a hope that it would work. I was pretty confident and was sure of myself that this was gonna work. It's been about 2 hours, and so I feel like my tile is good and hardened, so I'm gonna go ahead and gently remove it from the plastic container, and you can do that just by pressing there on the bottom and it'll pop right out thanks to the non-stick spray. Now, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, I guess the nutmeg didn't stick as well as I wanted to. I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do this so this stuff isn't falling off everywhere? It's clearly not sticking. As I'm patting it, I can see that even the plaster is showing with none of the nutmeg adhered to it. For some reason, I thought if I patted it down, that was going to do some good. So I'm thinking, what can I do to remedy this problem but still have this dirt look? Then I saw my varnish by Waverly. This is a clear matte varnish, and I thought, okay, this is what I need. This is gonna work. I'm gonna apply it with my finger because this is a powdery substance, so it's gonna be hard, but if I use my finger, I can mix the varnish in with some of that nutmeg and it's gonna stick, and when it dries, because it's a clear varnish, it's gonna dry clear. This is the solution to my problem. So I did. I went in with my finger. It was a bit messy, but you know what? We're all DIYers and crafters, right? Sometimes we take one for the DIY. That's what I was doing here. As I'm looking down at this, it is taking me back to that moment. As I'm sitting there, you can't see me, staring down at this tile thinking, oh my word, this looks like a hot mess. I'm not thinking that this is gonna work, but we're gonna let this set overnight and see what it looks like in the morning, and we'll tackle the rest of this issue in the morning because I am not ready to throw in the towel on this DIY yet. I know the potential of what it can be, so try again. Yes. Dollar Tree's also got these cool plastic skulls. I thought this would be a fun tile. So to make it so it could fit inside the plaster and actually stay, I decided to go ahead and cut off the back of the head because it wasn't going to go as deep into the plaster as I wanted it to go because of how big the back of the head was. So an easy fix, and it's plastic. I just took my razor, cut off a good chunk of the back of this skull's head. And with that, I can go ahead and place this right inside my plaster. And it's gonna be a win-win because as I put this in the plaster, the inside of this skull is going to fill with plaster, which is really gonna keep this skull into the tile. The idea of this that I had in my head, the whole vision, I needed this to become my DIY reality, and I was gonna make it happen. So again, with this one, while the plaster was wet, yep, I went in with some nutmeg again. All right, I'm looking at this after I've applied a nice even coat of that varnish with my finger. This looks promising. I'm thinking if this dries clear, I've done it. I have achieved what I wanted to achieve. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I wanted to show you what has happened. I am super happy with the texture of this. It's been about 10 hours and I was thinking that the varnish wasn't drying because it is a clear varnish and there is white in it. This morning when I woke up, it was very white, but I am noticing that it is drying. And I think what happened was I pulled my tiles out of the form and went straight to adding the cinnamon or the nutmeg, whatever it was that I added, when in fact the tile wasn't completely dry. It was hardened, but it wasn't dry. So there was still moisture in the plaster of Paris. And so I feel like had I waited maybe a day or two before I added the varnish and the cinnamon for the dirt look, it would have had a better outcome, because as the tile is drying, the varnish is drying as well, and the white discoloration is going away. I pulled the varnish off of this one because this morning when I woke up, it was white, the varnish. After I pulled it up, I started seeing that the varnish was in fact drying and it was turning brown. Even then, I wasn't super happy with this, so I went ahead and pulled it up. I am not somebody who is going to give up on a DIY easily because I know the potential of this. So I'm gonna keep at it. And I think what I'm gonna do, because this tile is, I think, pretty much dry now, I'm gonna try using Mod Podge and dirt and mixing it ahead of time. I really thought that when I added the pumpkin spice or the cinnamon to the wet plaster, that it would adhere to the plaster like it would when you sprinkle it over glue, and that just wasn't the case. And so I'm gonna clean this tile up the best that I can, and then I'm gonna mix up some Mod Podge and dirt together and apply it to this. I tell you, I am on a mission to make this DIY work as I'm still peeling off varnish. I want this DIY to work because I want dirt on this. That's just the vision I had, and so I'm gonna make it work. And it still works. That's great. It takes a licking and it keeps on ticking. I was actually really surprised at how easily my spice concoction came up off of the plaster just using one of these scraper tools. And so this is really how I cleaned up both of the tiles. This one, however, cleaned up a bit more because it wasn't as detailed as the skeleton itself. I did not run it under any kind of water, but I did, however, once I got the majority of the seasoning off, go in with a damp paper towel and wipe off whatever excess seasoning and varnish that I could get off the tile. I mean, really, what was the worst that was gonna happen? I was gonna have to scrap this DIY. At this point, I was already in it, so I just figured, self, you're gonna keep on trying, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, I gave it my best shot, and yeah, am I gonna try another one? I wasn't sure at this point if this didn't work. I'm pretty happy with how clean I got this, so I'm feeling like this is a clean slate, a blank canvas. Let's see if I can get this to do what I want it to do. Mod Podge, that has gotta work, right? Why I didn't just do this in the first place and wait for this tile to dry so I could do it, honestly, I don't know. I feel like I need to blame it on COVID brain fog, because I don't feel like I have been as sharp as I used to be, or I guess as quick thinking as I used to be. And so I feel like it's getting better over time, but it's that fog has just kind of lingered. And so with this, I'm thinking if I put a nice healthy coat of Mod Podge on this tile, and when I say healthy, I mean thick and even, because I'm gonna go in with some dirt. This is actually potting mix. Potting mix dirt, is there a difference? I feel like there is more texture to the potting mix versus just a plain dirt. And so I decided to go the route of potting mix because as I was looking at it, I thought again to myself, this is gonna give me the look that I'm looking for. Now, I will tell you that when putting the potting mix on, you do wanna put it on fairly quickly after you apply that Mod Podge, because Mod Podge does tend to dry rather quickly. And so you do wanna get that on there Once it's on there, I found that by pressing the dirt down into the Mod Podge, that was the key to this. Actually, I guess mixing in the Mod Podge with that dirt and really just adhering it together. Because Mod Podge is so thick, as I was pressing it down, I could feel the dirt actually absorbing the Mod Podge. And that was when I started to realize, okay, I think that I may have just salvaged this DIY, and I'm thinking this is gonna work because once it dries, I don't think this dirt is gonna come off. Because I was feeling pretty confident about that skull, I decided to go ahead and do the same thing to this skeleton. We are on, I want to say, day 3 now of this DIY. Talk about determination and perseverance. That was what this was about at this point. This was not about having a video to put up on YouTube for all of you, because I knew that this just wasn't a DIY that I could do that with unless I redid the DIY, editing out and showing you or not showing you everything that I had been through to get this DIY to work. And so since we're on day 3, this was, I want to say, 8 o'clock at night, and I decided to do this before I went to bed to give it that 6 to 8 hour time to dry. It's the next morning, and I tell you, I hopped right out of bed, went straight into my craft room because I wanted to see the outcome. Did it work or didn't it? I'm cautiously gonna say I think things are looking up. I went into my bathroom, grabbed an aerosol hairspray, and decided to spray the dirt with the aerosol hairspray. If hairspray holds your hair, why wouldn't it hold dirt in place? The last thing I want is to have this decorative piece up and have dirt falling down onto whatever surface is beneath the tile. And so in the past, I have used hairspray for moss. I was thinking it was gonna work for this dirt too. Apple Barrel's Chocolate Sprinkles may be my new favorite paint. This is a multi-surface paint, so it is going to work well on the sides of this tile, helping the sides blend in with the top here, the dirt top. I want to start hanging my tiles on the wall, so this needs a hanger. Digging into my stash of sawtooth hangers. These are handy. You've seen me take them off the shadow boxes from Michael's. I really do keep them because why would I throw such a thing away when I can use it for a DIY like this one? Because this is plaster, I can easily screw the screws that go with the sawtooth hangers into the plaster, giving me a sturdy hanger so I can then in turn, yes, hang my tiles on a wall and have a gallery wall of tiles. How fun is that? And boom, I'm done. What do you think? I'm gonna say I salvaged this DIY. I'm pretty happy with the outcome. It is definitely the way I visioned it in my head, and that there, look at that. When you shake it, yeah, look at the dirt isn't coming off because of the Mod Podge and the hairspray. I couldn't be happier. Halloween isn't my favorite holiday, but you know what? I definitely wanted some Halloween-inspired tiles, and I think I did that with these pieces, and I couldn't be happier. And look, at the end of the day, my skeleton still works after all of that. Let's take a picture of these outside on an easel so you can get a better look. Who is today's KB Creations Crafter of the Day? Well, it's going out to Patricia Hortman, who's bringing to us her recreation of my latest fall DIY, these autumn pumpkins. Patricia, I am loving your spin and twist on this. This is a definite example, if stitching isn't for you, how distressing the edges can finish a DIY off nicely just as well. Patricia, thank you so much for sharing your recreation with us today. If you're interested in following me on social media, you can find these links, yep, in the description box below. Am I happy with the outcome? I'm gonna say that I am. This is exactly what I envisioned for these tiles when I started this DIY out. The process kind of took a bit to get me where I needed to be. And was there easier ways to go about achieving this look? I'm absolutely sure that there was. But at the end of the day, I kept trying. I didn't want to throw in the towel, and I ended up getting the outcome that I was happy with, that I envisioned. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and the reality of what I go through as a creator with a DIY from time to time. It is the magic of editing and video that kind of erases all of those mistakes or mishaps and gives you the vision of how easy a DIY can be. At the end of the day, I really could have just kind of refilmed this and done it verbatim. What I had learned through, I guess, trial and error, but I wanted you two to see that not every DIY is easy for me. And I really don't have the answers, all of the answers to a DIY or I guess a technique, and I kind of learn it through trial and error. There's a learning curve, and I think through this process I definitely learned a lot about these tiles, learned a lot about working with the plaster, and I think it made me a bit wiser as a crafter. Until next time, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy crafting on a budget. Make sure to click on the video over here for more of my DIY favorites. And stay happy, stay safe, stay healthy, but most of all, stay positive, please. And bye for now, everybody.